We've done it. We have overcome the terrible technical difficulties, and it looks like things are now live and functional. I am playing catch up with just about everything, as all of our programs decided to reset themselves today for some reason. But if this is your first time, welcome to the Startup Tank. Welcome a little late, but better late than never. I'm your host, Matt Ward. I run 4WARD.VC and our partner in Clime, Climate Accelerator. We're basically building both most hands-on accelerator and overall kind of climate-focused community out there. You can find out more about us at 4WARD.VC. We've got a climate VC database to find your ideal investors. We've got our climate techies community to connect and network, climate solutions database so that corporates, clients, partners can find you. All of that is available and much, much more at 4WARD.VC. And we do these calls every 2 weeks. We call it the Startup Tank. We have a Shark Tank or Dragon's Den type panel of climate VCs and 4 to 6 pre-seed to pre-series A climate companies on. You can find out more about us and apply for a future session at thestartuptank.com. And without further ado, since I've monopolized this with technical difficulties and duct taping everything back together, I'd love to introduce my investor panelists who are going to be joining me. Calvin Cupini with Activate Capital, and Alex Mitchell with Full Turn Capital. And then I'll give a little bit more information on 4WARD as well. You want to take it away, Calvin?
Hi, everyone. My name is Calvin Cupini, and I'm with Activate as the Senior Investment Manager, primarily focused on deep tech, early stage, and things with a big impact. Anything more than that, Matt?
I think that's pretty good. Any geographic focuses?
Primarily, no, but we do a lot of deals here in the US. I'm based in the Bay Area.
Very cool. Very cool. Thanks. And Alex.
Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. Alex Mitchell. I've spent about the last 15 years of my life in decarbonization with a particular focus on transportation. For the last 5 years or so, I was helping lead Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, or LACI, which is a nonprofit incubator with a mission of creating an inclusive green economy, including having an in-house venture fund and a debt fund. And then in the last couple of months, I stepped down from that role to serve just as a senior advisor and work full-time in the venture space on decarbonization of transportation. But rest assured, I have a pretty good sense of the overall climate space and excited to be here today. Thank you, Matt.
And I'm excited to have you guys here, my other shark panelists, so to speak. And you guys, hopefully this isn't your first episode, so it looks like we're more professional than this, but I'm your host, Matt Ward. I run 4WARD.VC. We have an early stage climate accelerator. We've got climate communities to connect all the players together. We've got all your databases, fundraising, networking, et cetera, all available at 4WARD.VC. I'll give you guys more context as well a little bit later. Right now, I'm playing a little bit of catch up, but as you kind of guessed, this format is a Shark Tank, a Dragon's Den for climate companies. We have some of the best on. They'll be given 5 minutes to pitch our dragon, so to speak, and see who comes out on top. Our climate startup of the night, we'll vote for them at the end. And anyone who's watching this, you can always reach out to the companies if you're an investor or a partner or looking to get involved in a pretty big way with what the company's doing. I'm sure they're probably looking for funding. At least one of the companies I know, but we'll tell you a little bit more about Replace and them graduating our program in the sec. Is everybody ready for the tank? Are you ready to dive in? Awesome. Then I would love to kick things off to kind of first and foremost with Aaron, BlazePower. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you guys are doing and how you're making safer EV batteries?
Yes, Matt. Thank you so much. First of all, I will introduce to here my partner is a company co-founder, CEO, Sagar Pandey. So he's going to lead the present.
Awesome. Take it away. I'll add him as well then.
Awesome. So I'll get started with the pitch. Thank you for the introduction, Arun. So BlazePower is solving the lithium battery supply chain problem by producing low-cost LFP cathodes using a new chemistry for sustainable lithium-ion battery. We are essentially a battery manufacturing company with the goal of having net zero emissions. Here's a team of battery experts who are poised to revolutionize the market. Making a battery consists of 5 critical steps. And at BlazePower, we are focused on innovating the manufacturing process in the midstream and creating a bridge between lower stream and upper stream. We have invented a patented technology for supporting the goal of net zero emissions by creating a lithium-ion bridge. So here in this picture, you can see a snapshot of our manufacturing process behind LFP batteries. And to achieve this process, we are creating a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility to deliver high-quality LFP batteries. The target market in this space is large, growing, and well-positioned. In 4 years, the estimated market of EV battery companies in US is expected to be of $40 billion. And BlazePower is aiming to capture 20% of the battery market in the US in the next 4 years. The battery manufacturing in US is facing several huge challenges, some of them being primarily a supply chain dependence on nickel and cobalt, which is a critical factor in market adoption. Developing new manufacturing process is having several issues. The current NMC batteries are having overheating and fire hazards, and the battery design manufacturing process is having issues, and even IP protection within the US is a severe concern. The solution is BlazePower's low-cost LFP battery manufacturing technology. We have eliminated the use of nickel and cobalt, and we have incorporated iron phosphate and manganese into our batteries. Our batteries are much safer compared to existing NMC batteries. We have also innovated the recycling process, and we are focusing on securing the IP within the US. So more than 90% of the batteries today are nickel and cobalt based, and the current industry standard of making nickel and cobalt based cathode requires an extremely challenging manufacturing process. Due to this, the battery performance is inconsistent, and making batteries in large volume is a problem because the process is slow. At Blaze, we are using iron phosphate and manganese chemistry, and due to the unique property of these materials, we have made the manufacturing process up to 70% faster and significantly safer. The manufacturing process is more efficient as we have reduced the number of steps needed to make cathode. This is our MVP proof of concept data. What makes our technology even more special is the fact that we can customize the morphology of cathode materials, which depend on the electrochemical performance. To give you an example, if we design a battery pack for a motorcycle and a battery pack for a car, both the battery packs will have different morphology and thickness, which will make the batteries more efficient. And this happens because the particle size is a deciding factor in how many miles we can drive the car. Smaller particle sizes increase density and power of our batteries, which make it highly sustainable, and it's easy to reuse the retired batteries. With BlazePower batteries, users can discover the remarkable advantage of lithium-ion and manganese phosphate that make us a game changer in the energy storage landscape. Our battery benefits from high energy density, enabling more power to be stored in a compact size, delivering greater efficiency and longer lasting performance. Users can experience the convenience of fast charging capabilities with exceptional safety profile, characterized by high thermal stability and reduced risk of thermal runaway.
1 minute warning.
BlazePower's LFP batteries hold significant potential for market adoption across various sectors. Our primary target market consists of passenger EVs and commercial EVs. We can customize our batteries based on customer needs to attract OEM suppliers, fleet sales, and battery leasing. The versatility and benefits of LFP and LMFP batteries position us for significant market adoption in the years ahead. We already have 2 LOIs with scale producers and some additional interest. Our timeline is distributed in 4 phases. In phase 1, we are currently focusing on US-based IP protection, architecture, research and development, and integrating with initial customers and scaling process. To conclude, I would like to say that the future belongs to clean energy. We are ready and we've got everything lined up. We are actively raising for a seed round of 3 million at 12 million post-valuation safe. Thank you.
Awesome, and thank you. Great job pitching. Let me bring the other panelists in here now so we can grill you while we are doing that. How long have you guys been working on this? I missed that.
Quite a few years now on securing our IP and filing for some patents, but we've just started raising for the seed round.
Okay, what makes you think you're ready for a seed?
We've got everything lined up, and we are initially planning to build a pilot scale facility so we can start manufacturing our cathodes in large quantities and distribute them amongst the manufacturers within the US so we can get some additional contracts.
Awesome. Then Alex, I think I'll let you go first because this is your can of worms or can of tea.
Sure. Maybe two questions. One, how did you pick the US as your beachhead market as opposed to South Asia, Europe, somewhere else? And then second, there's going to be and already are other folks doing LFP in the US. And I'm just wondering how you think you're going to really be able to stand out versus some of the other folks who already might even have, construction of a plant underway, et cetera, as it relates to LFP manufacturing in the US.
Thank you. So we are initially focusing on IP protection within the US, and we are building a pilot scale facility here. But we also have plans to expand our manufacturing to South Asia. That's a great question because it's low cost and it'll be more efficient. But since we are in phase 1 right now, we are focusing on securing the IP within the US and filing for all our patents here, and also building the pilot scale facility. We do have partnerships with a few universities. And to answer your second question, there are very few players in the LFP battery market within the US currently. Most of the LFP battery makers are outside of the US. And the existing batteries within America, over 90% of them are NMC batteries, which primarily rely on nickel and cobalt. And both of these materials have a very high supply chain risk, and we are eliminating both of these materials.
Does that then make manganese your next supply chain risk?
Manganese does not have as high of a supply chain risk as nickel and cobalt. It relatively has a lower supply chain risk when compared to both of those materials. So we are essentially making two separate batteries. One is LFP, which is lithium iron phosphate, and the second battery is LMFP, which is lithium iron manganese phosphate. And we need manganese for that battery.
Is the phase 2 you were setting into India, is that purely for cost, or are there other strategic advantages?
There are other strategic advantages. We do have relationships in India with the government of India, and we are trying to leverage relationships to expand there. And there are several other incentives. As you might be aware that India has population about 4 times the size of US, and it's yet to experience an EV revolution. And since we already have ties there, we have done our research, and we are poised on securing all the patents within the US. And once we have a facility and once we have a manufacturing phase in hand, we'll expand to India.
All right, thank you.
What's the biggest risk then you see in the business? If you guys fail, why will it be?
The biggest risk that we see currently is lack of funding, to be honest, because there are so many battery companies with huge promises, and many of them have not been able to deliver. So we see companies are not so sure when they are looking to invest in battery companies because there are so many types of battery chemistries. That's a risk that I potentially see from an investor standpoint. But other than that, we are confident about our technology and what we are making, and we promise to deliver back to the investors.
Everybody promises to deliver back to the investors. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Maybe, Matt, can I ask one more?
Yeah, no, you can
question?
ask. You can just jump in whenever you want. No need to
Yeah.
raise your hands. I'm no principal. Go for it.
There's a fairly finite list of your beachhead market is the US, and your beachhead customer sounded like passenger car OEMs. There's roughly 20 passenger car OEMs who have a strategic interest in the US. It's a fairly finite list, and a lot of them are already working with fairly deep-pocketed battery rivals from Korea, Japan, China, and domestically emerging players in the US. What's to Matt's question about risk, sort of what's your backup plan if you're not able to secure a major contract with one of the passenger car manufacturers?
Within the US?
Yeah.
We do have LOIs from automotive manufacturers outside of US, but we are currently not focusing on them. We are planning to focus on them in phase 2 and phase 3.
And if you weren't able to secure a passenger car manufacturer contract as part of phase 1, what would you do? Would you move on to those OEMs in other markets, or would you pivot to a different customer archetype in the US?
That's a great question. We are planning to do partnerships with OEMs, and we are also focusing on backup market as solar energy grids, because that's a growing market. So batteries are extensively used in solar systems and energy grids. So that's one of our markets.
It's specific for the small grid applications for homes.
What was that? Sorry, it was a little hard to hear.
Specific for the small grid for the home applications to be integrations with the solar cell.
It's some extreme weather wind here. Sorry, I apologize. It sounds like I got a ghost in my apartment. Any last questions for the team, guys?
I have one last one.
Go
You
for
mentioned a customizable morphology. Do you have any data on how consistently you can actually dial in those particle sizes?
Yes, we have.
Great.
Maybe you guys connect offline where it's a little bit less the proprietary stuff can come out of it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks.
Awesome. Then, yeah. Sagar, Arun, thanks so much for presenting. It's incredibly interesting. And if you need energy to power those batteries and put some in, I think we've got Matthias on now with Replace Energy. There's Matthias. I would hand things over to Matthias. Matthias has been going through our program now with 4WARD and our partner in Clime program, as well as Techstars, and they've got some pretty exciting stuff happening there. Matthias, are you ready to take it away, so to speak?
Amazing. Thank you, Matt, and nice to see you all. I'll share my screen. To combat climate change and provide affordable energy, 135 countries committed to net zero. Lots of projects need to be built, as today only 35% of the energy sources are renewable. Between you and me, it's a fantasy, because 80% of renewable energy projects fail during development due to manual and inefficient site selection. My name is Matthias Sigal, CEO of Replace, and during the last 4 years, I have been working on the development of renewable energy projects, and I saw firsthand how much time and money is wasted on inefficient project development. I even lost 18 months in one case. The main reason why projects fail is because the developers find their sites manually. They usually check several data sources such as the grid connection, the land availability, and the permits, and do a checklist. And after a few months, in average 6 months, developing that project, they find out that they cannot build due to environment, landscape, or grid. Replace developed a data analysis algorithm that identifies the most suitable location for a project in one click. It's very simple. The user inputs the envisioned project, the technology, size, and region. For example, 5 megawatts, solar, Israel. And with that input, the technology finds the best location for the project. The market is massive and growing. In 2021, $500 billion were invested in new renewable energy projects, and is expected to grow to 5 trillion in 2030. This is according to the UN. However, of course, this is not our market. We will target the development part. This represents 10% of the market. Basically, we are starting selling to solar developers, and then we will also incorporate other segments like storage and wind, and also other target users like investors. They can do a due diligence on a project in one click and detect the red flags. And also landowners, they can check how good is their land for a renewable energy project. We are charging the solar developers an annual fee per number of search per country. So basically, just to make it clear, our competitors are doing a tool that helps to find in the map the location using different data sources. Also, developers use GIS, Geographical Information Systems. Replace is 10 times better. We are a search engine for renewable energy project locations. In one click, we find the best location for a project that is ranked by the tool after checking all the potential sites with all the potential parameters. I'm not doing this alone. My CTO, Alan Algamis, has developed the technology. He has more than 14 years of experience developing software solutions, and he even developed a tool to find landowners for real estate in the US and sold the service to real estate developers. And myself, I have been working for, as I was saying, 4 years in a climate tech company, but I opened that company in 6 countries, and that led the company to do IPO. Also, we have a great team with, for example, our product owner has more than 25 years of experience developing wind farm, and our main software engineer has also experience in solar farms. During the last 3 months in the program, we closed a pre-seed round, raising $500,000 from great investors. We signed our first client in Sweden, and we have more than 5 additional clients in the pipeline in different continents in the world. So here, I want to open to you an opportunity to make an impact on the environment. Work with us so Replace can become the one-stop tool for the development of renewable energy projects in order to help combat climate change. Specifically, we are looking to talk to solar developers in Europe and the US, but also we are happy to start discussions with investors and VCs. We are not raising right now, but really soon we will open the seed round, so it's always good to start the connection early. And thank you, and I'm happy to answer any question.
Awesome. Thanks for presenting, Matthias. It is always good to start those conversations early, and sorry we couldn't get him on ahead of the pre-seed round, guys, but there was a little too much momentum. Things are certainly moving. I'll bring in our other panelist and hand over first to Calvin. Calvin, what questions you got for Matthias?
Yeah, thanks so much. I think I should start with a full disclosure that I have a deep background in GIS and siting, looking for solar projects that are viable in the United States and combining a lot of data sources for those. So this is right up my alley, and I'm really excited to hear about it. Can you go over a bit more why you think this platform has advantages over major GIS platforms like Esri?
Yeah. So, and I'm happy to discuss further afterwards also what you said. But the main point, so for the ones that don't know, and Calvin, you can correct me, you have more experience than me in GIS, but a simple way to put it is that GIS is a sandwich of layers of data. So you put the layer of the grid, the layer of the sun, the layer of the parcels of land, and then manually or with your eyes, you detect the interesting sites, seeing all the data together. Correct?
It gets a little bit more advanced than that. But just give me more about that makes it so easy for the buyer.
Basically, our main difference is that we are not a GIS. We are a data analysis technology that also in the roadmap we have the incorporation of machine learning tools and other stuff. But right now it's already better because what we do is we check every single parcel of land, and in each of them we run the algorithm that checks all the relevant parameters with a weighting of each parameter. So we end up having a ranking on each land for the Envision project. So it's done in the cloud when the user puts the input, because it's not the same if you want to build a 50 megawatt solar farm in California, in San Francisco, where you said you are, or in the Negev in Tel Aviv, a 20 megawatts greenfield or agrivoltaic project. So with that input, the technology checks every single parcel of land that is relevant, meaning it's not checking the military zones or airports or cities, and gets a ranking, and then creates an optimal combinations of parcels. So as a result, we are checking all the sites and choosing the best one. And with GIS, users are not checking all the sites, are detecting good sites and then go deep on those. And that's why they lose money, because after working on those sites for in average 6 months, I was 18, but I was not using GIS. The municipality comes and tells them, so Calvin, I'm sorry, but you cannot build here. It's a protected area. This was in the law of the municipality, and you didn't see that law. So you lost 6 months. You already invested in studies with engineers. We went twice to the place, and so on and so forth. So that's the main advantage.
Sure. Where are you getting your data? The question's kind of in 2 pieces. Where would you get the data, for instance, in the United States for parcels and elevation and slope and tree cover and things like this? And then do you have to do that in every single different country with a different haystack of data?
Yeah, so it's a great point. And basically, and we are not doing the US now, but we started checking, so maybe I don't have the complete answer, but the technology is based on 2 parts. You have the technology itself and the data. Today, we're using public data.
Mhm.
However, that's why I mentioned before machine learning. We are working already on some proprietary data that we will include. I was saying during the pitch that my co-founder Alan, and that's how we started working together. We were friends for a long time, but I mentioned this, and he told me that he developed a tool to find the landowners for real estate in the US. And so he was doing this, like getting data from different sites online. But in each country, for example, the parcels usually is the cadastral data. In other countries we are taking it from there. And there is also some other public site that works in all of Europe for the parcels. In US, I'm not sure about the parcels, but you have a lot of data from the NREL, the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and different data sources. In fact, in Europe, we can also use the NREL data of the radiation. But yeah, long story short, most of the data for the MVP phase is public, but now we are already working on proprietary data sources that add more and more value. The ones you mentioned are not the more complex ones, the slope and the parcels and so on. Those ones usually are not that complex to get. And in fact, the three, I mentioned that we have like 1 sign and 5 in pipeline where we already checked before getting them in the pipeline. And really quickly, we were able to find the data in order to adapt the technology, and the adaptation of the technology to the new country takes really short amount of time. With the current team we have, it takes in average 2 weeks, and it can be a little bit more than that depending the format of the data.
Alex, do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, Matthias, great to reconnect. We had the chance to connect when you were in the incubator. I would love to hear on your pricing approach. You know, it sounds like you're charging people a fee per search. And I was just wondering if you really believe in the transformative impact of your solution and the ability to get to a viable, profitable plan for renewable deployment, whether you thought about other pricing approaches that might even offer you like a reward fee for you know, the success of that site, et cetera. Just talk us through how you got to your pricing approach.
Yeah. So something I want to also add on top of that is that we charge per site, but in a subscription base. So it's like an annual fee that you can do a bunch of search. Like right now, I'm in WeWork. In WeWork, you pay and you have X days to go. But then if you want more days, you can buy more days. So that's more or less the model. We could include a success fee basis where you have like a bigger fee, but that's something I think to do in the future. Once we are like running and we have like cash flow and so on, we can have a win-win situation with the user and do that, or maybe also even think about like equity on the projects, which can be good, but also it can be tricky if they want to sell it. So we need to work on it. Right now, we are moving with this model because for the stage we are is the most suitable one for both sides. But we are always discussing with clients about this.
You also talked about having a VIG potentially. So once you had the projects, you could sell from early stage to later stage and then take a VIG on those transactions, so to speak. Same thing with the buyers for land.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I was meaning. I mentioned it, equity, but is what Matt described.
And then, Matthias, other thing is, can you just talk about what your biggest sort of traction accomplishment over the last 3 months was? And as you look at the next 3 to 6 months, what you say, hey, this is the biggest challenge that sort of dictates the trajectory of the company.
Yeah. So look, I'm speaking honestly, like as we are, I know we are live, but I will tell you as we were not, okay? Like, so we were, and Matt can tell because we talked before we started, we were targeting to raise 350 to get 2 clients and to hire 1 person, and we ended up oversubscribed on all terms, okay? We raised 500K, we got 1 client signed, but we have more than that that is verbally agreed, and soon we will publish. And we also built a really, really great team. So this gives us enough runway for more time than November, but because we will have really good milestones, hopefully in November, the idea is then start the seed. So what we need now is to execute what we have more or less in the table, which is close the other deals, deliver all of them, and then according to all the discussions with the VCs we are having, that should be more than good enough to to raise the seed and then move stronger and do like a commercial rollout.
Kind of diving into the customer and the GIS comparison. So when we did this, I did this in a research angle, and we were looking for the best places that were most viable for solar development in the United States. And we went down to like 10-meter resolution. I mean, the angle of the hill had to do with it, and the types of trees around, and the annual cloud cover, and then the local policies and regulations, which is what you kind of stepped into and said were surprises. I could see, I see a sandwich where your buyer might lie, which is needs to know and have no surprises around local policies and holdups. Like there must be no surprises when I start putting capital into this project. And if you've got a platform for that, that's phenomenal, but it's very tedious and it's very difficult to keep up with all of those things, and they change all the time. Before I was done with my research, we had to go back through twice and redo policies. But higher than that customer is a GIS user, which will probably have a professional on staff and or an engineer and spend, $250,000 just in the data management of all of these things. I see that as being far more intricate than you're offering, but yours is a lower barrier to entry. So the question in there is like, what is that typical customer when you're really big? How many are they just solar investors? Are they kind of project finance folks that are coming downhill and looking for more projects? Is it small investors that are only going to handle a few?
Yeah, so there are a few things from what you mentioned, but let's start with the question, and then if we have time, we dive on the rest. But basically, let's put it like this: the initial market we are targeting are two markets actually: the early stage developers and the utility stage developers. I call early stage developers to people and companies that sell projects ready to build, are smaller companies, maybe 20 people company, and they develop few projects per month because their main job is to sell projects ready to build. For the ones that don't know, means that they have a land agreement, interconnection approval, environmental approval, or some of those, and maybe a PPA, a power purchase agreement. The utility scale, they sell electricity. They are billion-dollar companies, thousands of people, but both find sites and more or less in the same way using the GIS you were talking about. We are actually servicing both, and in fact, we have 3 LOIs with early stage, and then we understood we could sell, so we stopped doing LOIs and we started selling, and we have one agreement with one that is in the middle, let's say, and then we have 2 on the table with like huge companies, global companies. So they do have this need, and they invested a lot of money on the GIS. So I think the initial vision, like at least at the beginning, they will use our tool to find the best sites, and then they will check them deeper with their team to decide if investing further. So then they will be able to find the best sites in clicks instead of months or weeks. Clicks, I mean like seconds, and then end up with the best sites possible after checking all of them, and also to avoid the risks twice, because the tool do it and then they double check it. But in the future, also we will get better and better, and maybe they don't need this tool, but they will use it because they already have it for now. But in the future, they won't need to invest on it. And as you mentioned, they are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars on building it, and it's not good enough because it's not updated enough, and you cannot check all the locations in a viable way because you need to invest a lot of time to do it. So that's
you're basically the pre-screener, and you find all the best, and then you can narrow down from there to the actual best by using the humans.
Exactly. But then about the market that you were talking, this is only the start, and I'm focused. I don't want for you to think that I'm crazy and targeting everywhere. Like, we are targeting now the developers, but we already got meetings with people from other segments, like asset investors, for example, BlackRock or Octopus Energy, that they do the same, but on the other side, and a tool that detects the red flags in clicks is awesome. Also, grid operators, the queues today are insanely big. They're having big headaches, same story. Landowners, maybe you have a land and you are doing oranges in Florida, but you could do solar and make twice the money. and more governments to define where to put the tenders. The market is insanely big, but only the developers market is also really, really big.
Matthias, if you say wanted to really have a really solid overview of Portugal, from deciding today that Portugal was the next priority market, how long would it take you from a data and tech perspective to feel like, look, we have robust data on Portugal? And then can you talk about how that's influencing your product roadmap plan as you acquire customers, whether that's within Europe or outside of Europe and other markets like the US?
Yeah. In fact, well, one of the LOIs I mentioned is in Portugal, the other two in Spain. Portugal and Spain have the same interconnected system, so a lot of the data is the same. A country like Portugal, I don't know the specifics, but for example, Portugal is great. You have available data on the capacity of the substations, which means you know where you can connect, which size of project. This is amazing data, and in the US, this data is not available, for example. It has a difference. So Portugal is really good in this kind of data, and it's public. So I cannot answer you because how much time it takes us, but because to know it, we need to understand in which format it is. To make it simple, if we already did it in PDF and now it's in Excel, it will take us time to build a script, and then each time we have Excel is fast. So I need to check how it is in Portugal. Actually, I think my co-founder Alan knows already, but I don't remember now. But between 2 weeks and 2 months, as I was saying before, to a new country. And in terms of strategy, so we started with Portugal and Spain. Actually, that's why I know this information. But then we got clients in other places, and we decided to do between 3 and 5 countries. So in fact, the developers listening, there are 2 slots available that almost closed, but still open. Because we have three countries that we are working on deeply now. And after that, we will work hard on those countries and then start growing after the seed with more capabilities to other markets as well.
That clear everything up? I pretty much know everything already about the company, so I'm trying to stay a little bit out and to not do any of just the easy lob.
Yeah, all good.
Awesome.
Yep.
Then yeah, Matthias, thanks for pitching, and thanks for being in the program as well, and for sharing a little bit more with founders. Now it's time for us to move things on to the next company of the night. Before we do, again, all of this is brought to you guys by 4WARD.VC. We've got a database of 900 plus climate funds, incubators, accelerators, and CVCs. If you want to find the best ideal investor for you by stage, sector, geography, and check size, it's just 4WARD, the number 4.ward.VC database. And you can find it all there. It's poorly pronounced, but you can find it all on our site. We got our Slack community, our WhatsApp community of climate techies, 2400, our newsletter, our climate solutions database, all of that and more you can find on our site. And just about everything you need to grow and scale your business. If you're trying to grow and scale your business, having a sustainability at the culture and the kind of center of the business is important. So let's have Caitlin now at Seed Culture. Caitlin, you ready?
Sure am.
Awesome. Then I will turn things over to you. You get your screen all ready to go. Let me know when you're ready and then kick things off.
Great. Is that sharing?
Yeah, take it away.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin, co-founder and CEO of Seed Culture. So we're building an enterprise sustainability SaaS platform with a vision to embed sustainability across teams, functions, and the overall employee experience. So working as a corporate sustainability consultant, I saw a common problem. Despite the huge number of organizations that are embracing sustainability and incorporating it into their business strategies, most are actually failing to deliver on their commitments. And this is largely because they're relying on a few individuals who lack resources, but also the expertise to upskill, motivate, and also measure action in the broader workforce. On the other side, most workers are really keen to help out, but lack that basic sustainability knowledge and competency. They don't see how their role connects to the enterprise sustainability agenda, and they're not incentivized to contribute. So our solution is a gamified SaaS platform to help organizations to upskill, align, and mobilize their workforce. Our first low-code education tool, built by myself before teaming up with Horea, our CTO, who's also on the call, offers bite-sized and really engaging sustainability modules on topics like Climate Change 101. But our customers aren't just looking for education. They want to convert this sustainability literacy into business relevant decisions that drive measurable outcomes. And that's why we go beyond training to also encourage and track sustainability innovations and behaviours across the workforce through our Learn, Connect, Act flywheel. So our secret sauce includes the ability to tailor the platform to reflect organisational goals and make the learning more relevant and actionable for the employees. The stickiness of our product through personalising employee journeys using AI, and our unique skills and competency framework that underpins the learning journeys. So our platform has benefits for multiple departments, but particularly those tasked with the sustainability agenda, also our strategic buyer. We help them to meet their commitments by upskilling and incentivising workers to contribute. We also help the HR department to improve their employer brand, and importantly, help the employees to progress in their careers, all the while reducing costs and improving top line growth through innovation. So our business model is a tiered yearly subscription based on the team size. So the standard plan includes the off-the-shelf sustainability content, while the premium plan allows companies to customize their employees' learning and action pathways. In terms of the founding team, I am a sustainability professional with a background in growth and marketing, including within my own e-commerce startup that I sold a few years ago. Horea, our CTO, is a technology and product leader. He spent the last 5 years leading the tech and product departments at a scale-up through 3 rounds of funding. We also have some brilliant advisors, including experts in behavioural science, AI, L&D, and corporate innovation. So we broadly categorise our competition into solutions focusing on employee sustainability education, those on the left, and those focusing on behaviour change, so those on the right.
1 minute warning.
However, none of them have managed to bridge the education action gap to truly operationalise sustainability through employee engagement. Ours is the only platform to connect personalised sustainability training to measurable behaviour changes and innovations that are connected to the strategy. So as an industry agnostic solution, the size of the opportunity here is massive, total addressable market of 200 billion. Our carbon reduction opportunity is also immense, which we achieve through reaching large groups of employees at scale and catalysing low carbon behaviours and company innovations. So most importantly in our traction, we have a growing list of prospects, including those that piloted our low-code training tool. These include an award-winning creative agency, and I'm pleased to share that we've just closed our first customer pre-sale for the commercial product currently being built by Horea. In terms of our go-to-market, we're initially targeting mid-sized B Corps and service companies with sustainability commitments. We're aiming to launch our commercial product around August, and we'll be closing our pre-seed in September. Speaking of which,
and time is up. How much is the pre-seed? What are you looking for?
300K, and that's going to help us build some of the key functionality in our commercial product and prove some of our hypotheses around the education action loop and connecting the content to the sustainability strategy.
Awesome. Well, I bring in the other investors. Quick question. Everybody's doing this. What makes you special? Where's the defensibility? Where's the moat? How do you kind of differentiate yourselves from the other players?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I'd say I don't think everyone's doing this. I think it's still a pretty nascent market. There's more and more players recognizing the opportunity here. I think what we've recognized as well, we've interviewed nearly 70 sustainability and business leaders, and a lot of insights came through with that first training low-code tool that we piloted. That training is one thing, but the really important aspect for organizations is how that's actually connected to the strategy and what are the things that the employees are doing off the back of that training, and actually measuring those. So I'd say that ties in with our competitive advantage, is that we're gathering a lot of this data, and also, enabling that through some of these, bringing in AI, connecting those learning journeys to our sustainability competency framework. So really, making it targeted for the employee, but also for the organization.
Awesome, thanks. Alex, you want to kick things off?
Sure. I mean, you preemptively answered one of my questions, which is I do think it's really encouraging that as part of your pre-seed raise, you're using part of those funds to really validate that education versus action sort of synergy is really, really what makes the value add versus having a customer of yours, I guess, procure both of those two things independently. I'd like to hear about your sort of product roadmap or product vision as it relates to things like employee benefits management, tracking scope 3 emissions, et cetera, helping employees with their trade-offs on commute to work or whatever it is that has a deep impact on that world of employee benefits meets scope 3 emissions. Can you talk a little bit about sort of how far your roadmap goes in terms of tracking and helping modify behavior on those sorts of things that would go into scope 3?
Yeah, so this is a fantastic question, and one that that's definitely in our roadmap. I'd say it's a little bit further down the line, the actual scope 3 tracking. So things like the home working emissions, commuting, business travel. I think it's also important to start off with some kind of impact there that's measurable. And that's why, from the get-go, we will have a impact assessment that the employees will take, in say level 1 of their journey. And that impact assessment will essentially look at some of those elements. That'll be on top of a cognition assessment. So looking at some of their kind of awareness, knowledge, and sort of values around sustainability. So those will be the kind of starting blocks, and then they'll be regularly encouraged to retake those assessments to earn more points. But importantly, the scope 3 element and being able to track and link that back, as you said, to incentive and reward schemes, that's something that we're really focused on. We know it's important. We also know that companies lack a framework to really reward their employees on some of these aspects. It's done really ad hoc. More and more companies are implementing sustainability-related compensation and incentive schemes, but they really want something meaty to be able to measure that progress against and have that as a common framework. So that's what we're really providing here. How they then reward them is up to them. We have some light rewards embedded into our system. For example, as they earn points, they also earn virtual trees, which we then plant on their behalf via our partners. So yeah, we're really focusing on both of those elements for sure.
Is there something more tangible than you could do than the trees? I feel like the trees is always the kind of fallback option when there's not a kind of really relevant option.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we did interview a lot of our employees in our pilot about, and it did come back time and time again that they actually really liked it. They liked the sort of double benefit instead of it being, offsets are normally you pollute and then you pay, whereas this is you do something good and you get trees. So they did like that, but absolutely we'll be looking at more kind of meaty ways to reward and incentivize those employees. Jorge, did you want to jump in on anything there as well?
I can. I'm conscious that I'll just be a voice that appears out of nowhere. So that's fine. I guess, two points in terms of the roadmap. To answer your question specifically, that spans across about 18 months. And I think towards month 7, we're looking at actually building the scope 3 emissions and looking into that. But to what Caitlin was saying, we wanted to do the MVP of that to see the engagement, to nail the engagement with that scope 3 reduction at an employee level. So that's the previous question. In terms of another thing I wanted to mention about the defensibility, We are building an engine, and that's the long-term vision, is to build an engine that personalizes the experience for each employee, so that the impact that they achieve is tangible. And that is something that we've not seen anyone do. It's all sort of very generic, and the people and employees don't see the tangible results of what they're doing.
Maybe just to add one more thing to that is another sort of moat that we're building is around our network effects. So obviously the kind of social network effects embedded into the product, because we're really catalyzing and leveraging this social ecosystem within companies, which is also a really powerful driver of behavior change. You know, people are 2 times more likely to learn information from someone they know, and they're 10 times more likely to act on it. So that's really powerful. Also, the sort of data network effects that we're building, and in terms of our content strategy, that's all been done in-house to date, but we plan to bring in external providers as well, which will start to kind of, you know, as that content library builds, that's obviously going to provide more and more value. So yeah, part of our content strategy here is eventually to open it up to other external providers, other sort of Skillshare, and yeah, sort of bring in more content that way as well.
Thanks. Do you mind, Matt?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Caitlin. I had a question on that curriculum development part. How much can be provided by your customer that may be something that they've already built or something that's specific to their industry? How much help do you offer for that? And then have you taken a look at any of the other sort of ESG spaces like equity and other sort of strategic targets that employers are looking for to, you know, retain and better improve the livelihood of their employees?
Sorry, just to clarify, when you say equity, do you mean a platform or?
No, sorry, like gender and race.
Oh, right, of course, yes. No, so in terms of the content, we do cover the broad gamut of the UN SDGs. So that's another sort of differentiation against our competitors. A lot of them focus solely on climate. You know, this is a climate show, but importantly for most sustainability teams, you know, sustainability is such a broad topic. It covers so many different things, from social topics, you know, diversity and inclusion included, all the way through to climate, water, waste. So we do cover all of those topics, or we will. And so what was the first part of your question? It was,
how much could the buyer contribute to their own platform, for instance? Because you also, I think, mentioned some of the low code. Like, is your buyer doing that themselves, setting up their dashboards?
Yeah. So that part, you know, we'll really look to empower the team leader to set that up, and it will be really intuitive, easy to use. In terms of tailoring and bringing in some of their existing content, that's absolutely something we've heard quite a few times that's important. So already part of our premium plan, you know, we have an add-on as well, where we can turn some of that existing content into our micro-learning format. So that's something we'll absolutely be exploring in that premium pathway, so they can bring in some of that, you know, really targeted or existing relevant content right into our platform, but in the format that we know will be engaging for users.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that the question Alex started with around, could you help, could this gamification help with the actual targeted measurement of scope 3 lift in any way, is a pain point that I think makes a lot of sense. And it's also something I've heard from more like giant public market investors, and even like the bigger private equity, that are, you know, kind of forcing the companies that they invest in to provide more data. And then you've got an investor relations person or someone who's seated in an underfunded wing of the corporation, sending out surveys that just have terrible report back statistics, and the data is not consistent or quality. And I think it could be pretty exciting to see you be a really simple add-on to an otherwise heavy reporting structure that went down to to the employees. I feel like it's too early to kind of ask about sort of stickiness and how user retention and whether or not people actually like using this thing. But I feel like that's the real thing that you're going to need to master, is that my employer is sending me yet another thing that I need to open up and do once a month. I mean, how do you get to something that they really like, or measure whether or not that they're sticking around almost voluntarily?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've recognized that that is absolutely imperative to what we're building. And we actually consider it as one of our sort of differentiators or unique sort of propositions here, is that's at the forefront of everything we're building. We're almost treating this as a sort of D2C platform, building with the user. We know that we live or die by the employee engagement. So some of the ways that we're doing that, well, firstly, the utilization of behavioral science principles. For example, the social ecosystem, like I said, that's really powerful for driving behavior change through social diffusion. Also, again, that game theory, that really helps with that sense of achievement and progression, bringing people back. The personalized pathways as well, really, helps to make it relevant to their interests, their role. And I think that relevancy is really key here. It can't just be too broad or too sort of high level. It has to be actionable and relevant to their day-to-day. So that's definitely something that's informing our platform build and content. Also looking at things like nudges to bring people back. And again, that use of micro-learning to really, enhance that retention and completion rate. And I think, the other important thing to consider here is that, these green skills and competencies are increasingly important. We feel strongly that over the next decade, this will really emerge as important as digital skills are today. So by really communicating those benefits to the employees, that by completing some of this training and being active and gaining that leadership visibility when they're earning points and they're progressing, that's going to be beneficial for their career, and just really highlighting that as well.
Where's the budget? Oh, sorry. Where's the budget for something like this coming from for corporates? Is this from the continuing education budget, or is this their corporate responsibility, or is this their green PR? What is it?
Yeah, it does vary depending on the company, but predominantly it is the sustainability department. This is one of their sort of key KPIs, is what we've discovered. And again, we went into this sort of with an open mind, who's going to own this, but ultimately it is mainly the sustainability department. Often it's also the CEO or the those at the very top. This is a strategic agenda for them. So yeah, it really depends on the company and why they're embarking on this, but mainly sustainability.
Caitlin, just as a follow-up to Calvin's question, there are some folks in the enterprise software space who have had a gone to market that first relies on getting the end consumer using an app, using a service, and using that to create backwards pressure on the org to say, hey, look, so many of the folks are already using this software, albeit as a personal account, not a corporate account. Let's make that more efficient. It sounds like you haven't gone that route, but I would love to hear, what you see as the pros cons of doing that route versus the route you've chosen.
Yeah, I think I'll let Hare talk to this as well, because I know he has some thoughts. But yeah, I think it's really, we know that, in order for sustainability transformations to be successful, it has to be a combination of the top down and the bottom up, but it has to start from the top for the most part. We envision that as part of our, as we build this and as we become more mature, that we actually do want to adopt more of that bottom up motion, and really look at how we can empower those, sustainability champions or enthusiasts or change makers within the organization to pitch this to their employer and kind of drive that change through that bottom up groundswell. But initially, we think it's just an easier sell to go for those that have already taken the sustainability pill and are really looking, they've experienced this problem because they they've addressed the low-hanging fruit, and now it's like, well, okay, we're still not hitting our target, so what do we do now? And yeah, that's where we know that they've identified this as the problem.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and it ties into the response that Caitlin gave to Kelvin's question, and I would like to emphasize the personalization part. And I think one of the key differences between the going the B2C route versus B2B is that companies already have an agenda. They already know what they need to hit. They have the numbers, they have the strategy. So then it's much more tangible what an employee does versus in their own lives, where the end goal is sort of just very personal. It is not part of a collective. It's not, you don't have that social aspect of it where we're working together to hit these goals that are very clear, and this is what we can do. So the other way around makes a lot more sense, where let's get the engagement there, let's have that satisfaction that we are actually doing something, and then look at our personal lives in terms of what we can do. So just the structure that a company provides, and the sort of the benefits of acting as a group to actually hit a goal that's quantifiable, that is on paper, that you hit, and you know what your contribution was.
Great, thanks.
Oops, thanks for sharing. Any last questions, folks? Awesome. Then really appreciate you coming on and pitching, Caitlin. I would then let Donut go with Smapp Lab and share a little bit more. I always forget what they're doing just based off of the name. I remembered it was pretty cool though. Farming. Yes. AI Copilot for farming. Definitely needed these days. You ready, Donut?
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you as well. Just tell me when you're ready and then you can take it away.
Yeah, I am ready. So my name is Donat, a third generation farmer from Hungary, and we are building a co-pilot for farmers to unlock the potential of agriculture. The problem that we experience is that pests, insects, are eating 40% of the global crop production. On the other hand, 1 in 10 people worldwide going to bed hungry each day based on the United Nations data. So with other words, insects are eating like the same amount of food, but 3 billion people are eating in each year. How we can solve that problem to basically eliminate the yield loss that the insects are causing is to bringing insect infestation monitoring and forecasting solution to the market, which help the farmers who help us to use the crop protection products, chemical or biological crop production products efficiently. We created a digital solution which collect hyperlocal real-time data from the field level on a really low-cost global coverage solution, and we can monitor all type of insects, which is causing the relevant problem for the farmers. How we do that? Basically, we created a really small camera-based IoT device, which is compatible with all type of manual insect traps. We're adding our device to the manual traps, which the farmers already using, but really time-consuming to collect the data from the field, because each day the farmers has to check all their traps, and based on that they can get the relevant data to use the pesticide effectively. Rather than adding our small device, it's turning the manual traps to smart. Each morning, it's take a picture, sending that picture to our server, where we have an image recognition algorithm, which counting and differentiating the different type of insect. And based on that, we are creating forecasting, which means that what is the right time to use the pesticide to eliminate the yield loss what the insects are causing. The total market, what we are targeting is huge. Insect and pests causing 290 billion loss annually for each year for the farmers. And we are focusing on arable crops, broad acre crops like soybeans, corn, cotton, and in our target countries, in the United States and Brazil and the European Union, it's like a 1.3 billion market opportunity. We are really proud what we reached in the last 3 years. We started to develop our solution in 2020, and in 2022 we reached a contract with 2 large crop protection companies, with FMC and Sumiagro. At the moment, we're working with these countries, with these companies in 4 and 7 countries in a commercial agreement, and we have several other pilot projects in new countries. And in this year, we combined several other large crop protection companies, universities, and large farms with our service. What is really attractive for our customers is our new business model in the industry. All the other players or competitors are selling the hardware and after charging some subscription model. We changed the way, and we only charging a yearly subscription based on the territory where they are using our service. At the moment, we have 1,450,000 annual recurring revenue, and we are growing on a yearly perspective on 3x.
1 minute warning.
Okay. Why we reached that change? Because we changed the unit economics of the whole solution. We decreased the data collection cost and the production cost like 10 times. We changed the business model, and it's lead our growing. The team, we are basically farmers with crop protection, engineering, and business background, and we are really close to our customers because we experience a problem on our farms. And what is the next for us is to raising the seed round investment, 2.5 million, to reaching the 200,000 monitored hectares, which is generating for us 1 million annual recurring revenue within the next 18 months.
And time is up. Very cool. Thanks for presenting, Donat. Let me bring all of our other panelists in. While I do, Calvin, do you have any questions? Do you want to take it away?
I was just finishing my notes. All right.
I apologize.
This is very interesting. I think this is very convenient, Matt. I also have a background in citizen science where people kind of crowdsource information like this, so bird migratory patterns and a couple of pest tracking opportunities, but they were just using a sticky piece of paper to grab them, and then they would go in manually as people, as farmers, and then write down what they saw, which would be a little bit slower than this. So here's my first questions are kind of techie. One, you mentioned in a slide that you have like a growing insect database. Are you developing that database yourself, or can you pull from other image models and other or resources?
No, we are developing our data sets because no large insect data sets labeled high quality data sets in the market. So what is happening on the customer side, they are seeing the same. But in the back end, basically in the first season, we are collecting the data and labeling with our crop protection experts in each day. So in real time, we are doing the labeling. After the second year, we have the first data set where we are reaching like 85% accuracy, also collecting data. And in the third year, we have the fully automated image recognition solution.
Yeah, I think that there are insect taxonomy databases that are publicly available, and they might be through universities, or they might be like, I'm thinking about the American Department of Agriculture or a few others that may exist. But the follow-on question is that you might just bucket all at once and take from that for free. But the question beyond that is, I mean, how many pests do you really need to track? Is it dozens? Is it thousands?
So we are focusing on the arable crops, broadacre crops, and basically in a global level, we have to monitor 12 different main insects, which has a huge economical loss perspective. And totally, if we're seeing a total market, what insects are relevant is like 60 different type of insect if we are seeing the high value crops market and the broadacre annual crop market together.
Alex, do you mind me doing a few more nerdy ones? All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Soil-borne pests or nocturnal pests. Do you have anything in your pipeline for those as well?
So we are not focusing on the soil pests. We are only focusing on the pests which are flying, and we can catch by pheromone traps or sticky traps, and basically turning these manual trap solutions to digital with a really low cost, low bandwidth IoT solution.
Okay. Yeah, and low bandwidth, and I think I saw you have a T-Mobile person on your team, which is really cool. I've seen a couple of projects like this run right up against the bandwidth issues and then stop there. Are you running through GSM networks? Are you running on LoRa? How are you getting data back to your compute resources?
Yeah, so the main connectivity type is 2G connectivity, but we have a LoRa and satellite module as well, and we always optimizing the cost of the solution. So for example, in the European Union, the 2G is a great option to use. In the Brazilian market, we have to use satellite connectivity because there are no option to use basic 2G. If somebody has a local LoRa network, we can use that. So based on the local circumstances, we are choosing that connectivity.
That's really, really interesting to hear. Is there any threat of 2G being shut down?
Yeah, 2G will be shut down between 25 and 30, depends on the region where we are. And because our module is, so our PCB is modular, we can easily change the connectivity one. And until we are calculating with 3 years lifetime, so there will be several generations until we have to change the whole solution to satellite or any advanced solution. And at the moment, the price difference is really huge. So the 2G and the data cost of the 2G is a really cost-efficient solution. So until we can use that, we wouldn't using more advanced and more expensive technologies.
Yeah, that's also very interesting. Great. And then I just wanted to hear one last voiceover on the sort of revenue model. I'm thinking for the customer, the benefit is I want as many of your sensors around me as possible because this, spatial resolution of these pests and where they're coming from and migratory patterns and seasonalities is even better. So does your revenue model incentivize more sensors out there to create more valuable data sets, or does it over incentivize kind of high profit early where you'll end up with kind of less sensors and less customers, but a better, revenue line?
Yes, so the €2 price point is valid if the trap density is 20 hectare. So one trap is monitoring 20 hectare. We are not using much more because the pheromone has a 20 hectare territory that it's collecting the insect, but there are some partners who are doing, for example, a sweet corn, which is a much more valuable type of crop than the corn, and they are using more traps in the same territory. In that point, it's the price per hectare is increasing.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense down to the pheromone spread, which is also an interesting factor. I wonder if in the future you found a good way of incentivizing a farmer to find the next farmer for you by maybe lowering their price, and then each farm by farm, you kind of moved outward and you could lower the price of the first customer, so long as it's a little bit of a multi-level marketing scheme. But I think that would get you to a scale where you had the most authoritative data set on pest migration and seasonality, and then you were the go-to resource.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback. We are really thinking on that, how we can do that. We have some experiment in different countries, and it's working in different efficiently. But where we see it's a good way to go, we will definitely use that multi-level marketing.
All right, thanks.
What's
Can
the
you just
biggest?
clarify a little bit what what prevents somebody, where's your real moat? Because on the business model side, it looks like other folks who you compete with today could over time migrate to that business model. So what do you see as being your real moat over, competitive, if you will, over the next several years, where you say, but because of proprietary technology or something else, we have a competitive moat?
So what point is really important to see in the market? Everybody in the agriculture focusing on the high value crops. So like 80–90% of the technology innovation is focusing on the high value crops in a region because they are doing like 20 times more on 1 hectare than the broadacre crops. And when somebody is focusing on a broadacre, so the arable crops, you have to be solve several challenges like the connectivity. And most of the technology, like our competitors' technology using 4G or 3G to do the connectivity. So when they wanted to turn to the arable crops market, it will basically a limitation for them because most of the field where the arable crops are only 2G or no connectivity solution, so we can to use satellite. So the connectivity side will help us to defend our position, and the other one is the different language, how you have to speak with your customers. The arable crops farmers thinking totally differently on an investment side than the high value crops farmers, because each year they are doing the whole season. When you have a orchard, you invest in the beginning, and the next 20–30 years you will do the farming there. If you have a broadacre crops, each year you're changing the crops, the fertilizers, potentially the crop protections, the rotation of the crops. So you have to create a flexible business model for them and not a hardware heavy type of business model.
What's the biggest risk then that you see?
The risk side, there are several risks, definitely. So focusing on arable crops is a risk, because most of the startups which become successful in this field is focused on the high value crops. So it's relatively a new market. We have to do lots of education with our customers to have them to understand why it's worse for them. So one point is definitely the target customer group is a risk, but on the other hand, it's a huge opportunity to go for that sector. Nobody or just a few companies focusing on this side. The other one is I think the scalability side. So when we will have 1 million active device on the field, how we can manage that to do how can we convince the farmers to do all the maintenance to get the highest quality data set in 1 million devices. And we have like now 1,000 devices. It's relatively easy to do that. But when there will be 1 million devices, it will be potentially a really big challenge to all the devices creating the highest quality data set for us. So it's customer support and customer care, which is a really important part of our business.
Very cool, very cool. Any last questions, folks, then? Want to make sure we've got enough time for our fishmongers, and handing things over to Suvo. Thanks so much for presenting, Donat.
Thank you very much.
It sounds very interesting. It sounds like it could be a big deal on the farming side of things. But now it's time to move to our last company of the night, Suvo with Fishmongers. Suvo, do you want to take it away? Awesome name, by the way.
Yeah, sure. Am I audible?
You are audible, visible, and ready to go.
Thank you. So is my screen visible?
Looking good.
Okay, so thank you everyone for giving us the opportunity to present here. So I'm the founder and CEO of Fishmongers, and Fishmongers is a technology-based live fish supply chain platform. So in India, we are operating where 43 million kilos of fish consumed every day, where the 98% of the fishes are fresh, 1% is live, and 1% is frozen. It is together a $19 billion market where the preference is live fish. Why? When the fish is fresh or frozen, always there is a question on quality, from where the fishes are coming from, when the fishes was caught. A live fish answers all those questions, and also it comes with a great taste. But it has supply chain constraints. It's very difficult to source a live fish because it will be a couple of 100,000 kilometers from where the fishes are produced. And so today, 50% of the fishes are lost due to mortality by the live fish transporters. And 65 of the transporters are so small that they burn their money and they move out of the business. And till that, it is not becoming an industry because of all the mortality problems. Finally, Fishmongers has commercialized this solution. We have developed a live fish transportation system based on 3 core modules. One is the formulation that we mix with the water. It's a water treatment formulation. Other is the IoT, which does the health check of the environment of the water quality. Other is the analytics. So with this, we are able to reduce the mortality from 50% to 5%. So what's this formulation doing? So this formulation is neutralizing all the ammonia, heavy metals released by the fishes, and also increasing the oxygen levels and keeping the fish sedated in a natural form. And the IoT is measuring the water quality, including the pH, dissolved oxygen, temperature, TDS. And the analytics is predicting and also acting as a soft sensors and correcting the incorrect values by the IoT sensors. So with this, we are changing the life of the wholesalers. So previously they were experiencing 50% mortality. Now it has come down to 5%. They can make more money. Other thing is that now it is becoming a reliable supply chain, so they can take orders. The price fluctuations has reduced. We are going towards a fixed price, and this has made their life easy and procurement possible. At the same time, since we are making 60% more margin than fresh and frozen fish, we are giving back to the farmers 20% and improving their life. Not only that, we are also giving them access to microcredits. With this, we are impacting 8 top sustainable development goals. Do you know that 25% of the fishes are thrown away after harvest due to perishability? With the live fish, we have brought it down to 0.5%. We have lost 50% of the fishes due to overfishing. And with this inland aquaculture using our live fish transportation, we are only sourcing that are fishes which are growing inland. And also we are using the same technology to increase the inland fish productivity by 2.5 times. And finally, because of the high gross margins and the premium, we are improving the livelihoods of the farmers as well as the wholesalers, retailers, by sharing the value margin. And 30% of the retailers are women today. This is our overall journey, how the live fish reach to the market. So we do certain preconditioning to make the fish safe, and we do the weighing, and then we pay to the farmers after harvest, and then we load it into a live fish vehicle. So live fish vehicle is just a pickup truck, which gets converted in live fish vehicle with a very nominal cost, that is 15 to 20,000 rupees in Indian rupees, and it reaches the wholesaler location in 2 to 3 days. We get 70% of the money after delivery. 10% is rotated with the wholesaler, it stayed with them as a seed money, and 10% we get it in another 7 days.
45-second warning, missed a minute.
So we are talking about a market in India, which is going humongously at 10.87%, where 10 billion is the live fish SKUs that we are doing today. And our revenue model, where 93% is coming from the fish, selling live fish, remaining is coming from the fish seeds and the seed culture system. We have done 0.3 million in 2021. After that, we have done 0.6 million. And last year, we have done 0.8 million. And in the last 3 months, we have closed, including June, 500,000. And in phase 2, we'll be introducing the blockchain as well as the seed trading systems. And we are ahead than the other fresh fish players because we don't have a direct competitor here with the live fish survivability, freshness,
and
supply
time
assurance.
Is up.
So we come from a team of coming from IT companies like TCS, IBM. One of our partners was a VP in IBM. Then one of our partners has worked in the largest aquaculture breeding center in Saudi, and also top B schools in India, which is in Bangalore. And we have received funding of, yeah.
Sorry, I had to cut you off.
Yeah,
so what
sure.
while I bring everybody else in, what exactly are you looking for, and what's the status? I know as well you were looking at some potential partnership setups with Aqualitas. Would love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, sure. So we are looking for a funding of 1.25 million. So that's our pre-Series A fund. So this year we are targeting, after the fund, we are targeting a revenue of 6 million. And that will be utilized to develop the technology as well as the marketplace. With Aqualitas, we are sourcing more reliable sensors. And on top of that, we will be adding our own algorithms in this overall system.
Very cool, very cool. And for context, Aqualitas is one of the companies in our partner in Clime Accelerator. If you guys want more details, it's just 4WARD.VC. You'll find it there. And if not, you probably don't belong in startups, let's be honest. Alex, you want to take it away with questions?
Sure, and I apologize if this question shows my lack of ignorance of the wholesale fish market, but or my ignorance of my lack of knowledge of. In terms of a go-to-market, it seems like you've inserted yourselves as an intermediary between the fishing ponds and the wholesalers. Can you share why you didn't choose to go to market as a hardware, as a subscription, and software as a subscription to the wholesalers themselves?
Yeah, so we are a kind of a logistics company. We get a GMV from the sales of the fish. The hardware market is a smaller market. And of course, subscription is a part of it. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Well, I totally understand GMV, but why did you choose not to offer this to wholesalers directly as a service that they could build into their capabilities?
So wholesalers doesn't have the interest to source the fish. So they wanted to sell the fish. So they want a partner who can bridge them between the farmers and the wholesalers. And this is a very technological and scientific way of transporting the fishes, which cannot be given to any third party at this stage. So we are controlling most of it. But yes, our technology is working good, and we are able to take the fishes live with less than 5% mortality. In some cases, less than 1% also.
How much of your technology have you developed is for a certain type of fish, and then how much fungibility do you have across different fish markets? For instance, larger fish.
Yeah, so the SKUs that we are doing today in India, it's 2 SKU, which are the carbs, which is 40% of India's total revenue. And globally also, it's a $100 billion revenue SKU, and it's also almost 40% of global fish market. So we are working with minimum SKUs, like a lot of people choose shrimps. We have chosen carbs, so it's 2 SKUs, and it's applicable for these 2 SKUs. And there are culture of domestic consumption of these 2 SKUs in generally in Asian and African countries.
What do you think would be next after those 2?
So these 2 SKUs is too big a market. It's a $10 billion market in India and $100 billion globally. So as of now, we wanted to focus on these 2 and take as much market as that. But yes, we have an experienced team who has worked in diversified species, and it's replicable. But as long as we are growing, we wanted to make less is more. That's our strategy.
Maybe as a thought to Calvin's questions, let's say you end up with a really good position in the carp market. Is your next logical choice to move outside of India with the same carp offering, or is it to go within India to a second species of fish?
Yeah, so we would like to go out of India, but keeping our species constant, because we have collected so many data. We have given all our focus, and we have already talking carve market about 100 billion. So there is no need unnecessarily. But yes, of course, if there is a change, there is a global change of business pattern, we can think about it. But as of now, we would like to keep focus.
You mentioned 20% of the additional margin going back to the farmers.
Yes, yes.
I love the sound of that. Is that truly sustainable as you get closer to the size of that market? Can you really send that much of your margin back down?
Yes, we can, because as of now, the total gross margin, including logistics, is nearly 39%. And this is after giving 20% back to the farmers. So we have a big gross margin to play. And also the kind of, we are at a quite an early stage. And as we improve our technology, this also gives us more edge to reduce the cost, and we can increase our margin on the other side. And this can compensate our business on the other side when it scales. And later on, we wanted to bring a platform, a transparent platform, a kind of a blockchain platform, which we want organically to come, where everybody will be aware of the price, who's making what. And we would like to make it a Uberization of that, making it quite fixed price so that all stakeholders benefit.
What's the kind of dirty or problematic part? Whenever something is too good to be true, it usually is. So where are the sticking points?
You mean the risks?
The risks. What do you see as the biggest challenges? What is kind of the keeping you up at night, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, true. So today the operations, although we have developed the technology, but it's in pieces. So we have to integrate them. And because it's in pieces, there are a lot of human operations involved. And it's quite operational intensive because of multiple human interventions, where we have to keep good relationships with the human. But going forward, we wanted to develop this part of it so that when we scale, we can reduce human interventions and keep more human interventions when it adds value, like farming, wholesaling, like that. That's the goal.
Looks like everybody's thinking about a next question. Are there any next questions jumping to mind, Alex or Calvin?
I guess I'd just love to hear, as you approach scale in the carp market in aquaculture in India, what's the next best use for, I mean, in essence, if I've understood this correctly, the amount of aquaculture space needed for fishing would decrease as you would have reached scale because you made it much more efficient, reducing mortality in transportation. What's the next best use for some of that aquaculture land?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So using the same technology by which we are transporting the fish, we are also growing the seedlings also. That's a very early stage. That's our phase 2. And that technology is known as Blue Box. It's our patented technology. That's our 4th patent. And using that technology, we are converting the immature and non-performing seeds at early stage to seedlings, which are more mature. With that, the mortality that happens in traditional aquaculture, that's usually 70 to 80% in India, is reduced to 5%. So with that, we get 2.5x more intensification and more output. And we can use the same system to grow. So the next phase would be to enhance the aquaculture growth, but that's in phase 2.
I might have missed this earlier. Where did the tech and expertise actually come from for this? I feel like it's very hands-on, lots of variables, and there's a lot of players in the space. Why you guys?
Yeah, so the tech is having 3 core parts. So one is the IoT part, which is measuring the entire water quality parameters. And we are using with a lot of cost-effective sensors using that. Other is the AI part, which is compensating for the incorrect value of the sensors. This is based on our experience of the data collection. And the third and the most important part is the formulations that we have developed using 36 ingredients, doing more than 350 plus trials, where we have reached to a stage that fish can be kept alive both in farms and also during transportation. So these are the three major techs. And on the farming side, we have developed a recirculatory aquaculture system also for the farming part. So majorly three techs and other in the phase 2.
Understood. I think that's everything for me. Alex, Calvin. Awesome. Then Suvo, thanks so much for pitching and for mongering on here. It's been very cool. It sounds very interesting and it's making me hungry. I wish I had some fish, if I'm going to be honest, but I don't have fish for dinner tonight. It's starting to get late in Europe. So now we move into the last segment of our show, the Climate Startup of the Night. Before we do, if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, etc., you can always find us there. Hit the subscribe bell so you don't miss a thing, or just go to thestartuptank.com/YouTube and you can find us there, or newsletters, etc., all the stuff's at 4WARD.VC. And now we move on to the last segment of the show where we vote who are our favorite 1, 2, 3 companies of the night, and then see if we can come to a bit of a consensus. I'm a little bit biased because Matthias has gone through the program, so I'm going to step out for this one and let Alex and Calvin take it away. Who's your favorite 1, 2 companies? Who would you want to talk to, meet, potentially invest in? Where do you see the biggest potential? I guess, yeah, Alex, you got to go first. Zoom puts you higher up.
First. I think my number 1 would be Smapp. I think there's I've seen time and again that bringing data to markets and places that don't have data already yields really, really interesting insights and results, not just for those end customers, but for others along the value chain, whether that be national governments, agricultural boards, you name it. So I think Smapp would be my first choice, and then Replace Matthias would be my second. I think one thing I would note there is it just seems like he continues to make really good progress with the business model, including potentially during the accelerator that you put him through. And so it's nice having connected with him a few months ago to see that he continues to really move towards commercialization. So that might be my vote, and happy to go deeper if need be, but maybe Calvin, over to you so I don't monopolize too much.
Yeah, I think you and I had some similar lines of questioning, which was really interesting. I think I really liked the Blaze team. I think what Alex and I kind of think is it's really crowded and tough, and so it'll be an uphill for them. But I do like that they'd like to sort of reshore in India as well. There will be a market there also. I think we should think about that. Matthias was really great. I'm of course biased on the GIS side, but I know that that's a different stratification of customer. So if he can hack the policy, the surprises that came from his own kind of customer journey, that'll be very valuable. And there'll be plenty of investors that are looking for the easiest turnkey way of finding a site. And most of those solutions now are really for professionals, and they're convoluted and difficult. But Smapp for me is where I see the greatest scalability. And similar to what Alex said, I think we see in the United States that the sort of productivity per hectare of crops here is just skyrocketing and goes up and up and up. And even relative to the same crop in other places, the sort of dollars per yield is really high. And that's because of technologies and a lot of research and a lot of government support in some cases too. And so to see that proliferate with low-cost tools is really, really exciting. And then it's pretty straightforward and simple. And I like hearing that a third-gen farmer is doing it, because I think really the barrier to entry is it's individual customers over and over again. And you're going to need to be a reliable resource for them in order to move in that way. And then each time it grows, it becomes a better value proposition. So he'll thin out in terms of how many sensors he can keep up with at a time. I've personally done this in air sensors. It gets really tough and stretched thin, but then the network of data is even more valuable. And I think seed culture is really interesting. And I think from what we discussed as a scope 3, make it easy for a company to actually track their value or show a lift. And so for me, Smapp and seed culture are pretty intriguing.
Awesome. Then it sounds like, I'm sorry, Matthias, I can't vote for you because I'm very conflicted. It sounds like Smapp just barely edged out Replace Energy then for climate startup of the night. Obviously, all the companies here are doing some pretty incredible stuff. They've made some awesome progress to make it here. We get a lot of applications. So congrats just on getting the chance to pitch. The VCs and investors out there, you know how to find them. It's firstname@domainname.com. You can find all of the information. Alex, where's the best place for people to find out a little bit more about you and Full Turn?
Fullturncapital.com or Alex at fullturncapital.com.
And Calvin?
Yeah, great. LinkedIn's probably quickest. My first and last name you can see here, or activate.org.
And for us, you can find us at 4WARD.VC, the number 4WARD.VC. We invest in companies that move the world forward, and we help them do that with our Partner in Clime program, where we're your partner in crime, so to speak, and help connect you with dozens to hundreds of mentors, customers, clients, partners, pilots to really get the traction moving and then get them on to raise money if they need money, or maybe they've already raised the money, as some of us have already done so here. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We've got Climate VC databases. We've got our Climate Techies community of 2,400 folks in the space. If you're trying to network and meet people, it's the best place to do it. 4WARD.VC/techies. And we've got our climate solutions database. If you've got a product out there that you're trying to get to corporates and clients, there's probably not a better place to list it. So go list it there. 4WARD.VC/solutions. We try to be everything to everybody and hope the karma comes back. And if you want more information about us and what we actually do, then feel free to reach out. And we'll talk to you. We'll talk to you guys again soon. We'll do this again in 2 weeks. And thanks for tuning in. And now let's go have some fish. Cheers, guys.